Coming up on today's show, we have a friend of the show, my own husband, the love of my life, John Henry Scott. And we are going to discuss, what do you do when dreams are deferred? You don't want to miss this episode. Hello, darlings, and welcome to today's show. I hope you guys can hear me because earlier when I was playing the sound, I could not hear. So I want to make sure that you guys can hear what is going on, what we are talking about today, because I don't want you to miss it. So if you can hear me, please type in the comments, yes, 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 yes. We can hear you. And as you guys are doing that, I'm going to go ahead and just make sure that everything is working appropriately. I know the mic is on, so I know that's working, but just wanting to make sure that everything else is working as well. So how is everyone doing out there? How are you doing, darlings? Hello, hello, hello. Thank you all so much for joining. Well, this is the Wake Up and Show Up live show. I am your host, Portia Scott, and we are bringing you a daily dose of inspiration and empowerment. And of course, I have a friend of the show, John Henry. I don't even know why he's over there. Like, this is a professional show, so I guess he's just waiting for, yes, we can hear you. Perfect. I guess he's just waiting for me to introduce. I literally did. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you guys to the love of my life, John Henry Scott the third.
Howdy, everybody. I haven't been on your show.
You haven't been on the show in a long time.
Pre-COVID, right?
We started this in COVID, so it was like
early
at the beginning.
Huh?
Yes. It's definitely been a while. So you guys, thank you so much for joining. You guys know how we do this. You know what? The sound threw me off a little bit, but you guys know how we do this. If I say something, if somebody in the comments, if your boy says something that you enjoy, say hello, darling, to let us know. Godfrey's on YouTube, Daryl's on YouTube, Rena's on YouTube, and we have a couple people that I know are on Facebook. However, you can watch this from Facebook. You cannot comment from Facebook. So if you want to actually join the conversation, head over to Facebook at Portia Scott Media. You guys, we have fully transitioned over, so you're able to watch it on Facebook. You're not able to engage, and we want to engage with you. So it's Portia Scott Media. So if you head over there, you can actually interact during this time. So I think one of the things that I am super excited about, Daryl's in here. D-Mitch, I missed you. For you guys that watch the Sunday show, we did not go live Sunday. We will be back next week, next Sunday, to talk COVID, but your girl needed a break. Listen, sometimes you just need like that mental break. And then number 2, kids go back to school on it's not next Monday. So we're actually good. They go the 12th. So, so we're actually, we really should be better parents. But you guys, I'm super excited. I wanted my husband to come in before he jumps on an airplane, and he's going to be socially distanced and very safe on his trip. But he has to fly to
on the count of stalkers, I must leave the country.
He has. Jasmine's listening from chiropractor's office. Hey, Jasmine, and let us know how you guys are doing. How are you feeling? What are you grateful for? So I wanted to bring him on because yesterday, many of you guys probably know, some of you guys don't know, but we actually serve as pastors of Christ Culture Church. And he is the lead pastor. And so we celebrated 2 years, but not only did we celebrate 2 years, we celebrated his 23rd year in ministry. And so for me, I was like, wow, how do you do something for 23 years? And I actually named this, what do you do when dreams are deferred? Clickbait. No, I'm just kidding. But I did that because I think so oftentimes we see or we think overnight success, because that's
Mhm.
what you see, especially now. Like, it's now more than ever, right? You're seeing all these things, and it's like, why have I not got there yet?
Mhm.
And so, as John and I were just thinking about even the 2 years at Christ Culture, we thought about the 10 years, right, that we had started, and it just didn't look like what we knew God had said. And so, even for him ministering for 23 years, like, I think it's important, so we can go ahead
Mhm.
and jump in. But one of the things that I wanted to talk about was like, okay, so let's just go back. Just what year was it when you were like, you know what? I know I'm called to preach the gospel, to share Jesus with the world, not just
Mhm.
like in a way, that we're all called to do that, to
Mhm.
impact humanity, to change the lives of people,
Mhm.
but like, what year was that when you, well, I guess 23 years ago, obviously, but 23 years ago is when you had your
Right,
first, when
right.
you,
So I knew before then, right? So I would say maybe like 1991,
mhm,
91 or 92.
yeah,
I remember that moment Granny told you about it, Granny
hmm,
Begay,
hmm.
right? When that's when I knew. So I had to, yeah, maybe like 1991.
So,
That's when I knew.
yeah, so this happens. And a lot of times, right, we have these opportunities where we're like, oh, we feel something, we have an idea, we have a dream. And here it is, you're getting ready to be 40. So that is like, I mean,
That's a big deal.
that is a
I'm
big
pumped
deal.
about that.
So, but how do you keep going when the dream doesn't always look like how you thought it would look, or how you thought it would
Mhm.
pan out, right? So let's not talk about yesterday and the excitement of
Mhm.
23 years, but actually let's go back 7 years
Mhm.
where you're in the midst of like, I know what I heard, but this literally looks like
Mhm.
nothing that, so how do you keep going?
Yeah, I don't know if if there's a silver bullet answer to that,
Right, right.
right? I think that the response matches the situation and the journey and the call and whatever it is that you put your hands to the plow to do,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
But I will say for me, if I were to look at the journey,
Mhm.
uh just pastoring
Mhm.
alone, is you've got to realize like why you're doing what it is that you're doing. That's the key, right? And
Mhm.
so I would not have ever done this if I didn't really love Jesus and love people. And
Right.
so I think that that's what kept me going, is
Right.
that even through the valleys, when it was hard, when you want to quit, when you want to give up, when you don't see results, when you don't see numbers, where it sometimes appears as if you're going backwards instead of forward,
Mhm.
then I think we've got to ask ourselves what anchors us, right? And
Mhm.
so my anchor was my love for Jesus and my love for people. And that's how I was able to keep going. And the cool thing about that is that that anchor keeps you
That's right.
steady whether things are not looking the way you want them to look, or whether things are
Looking
looking
the
the
way.
way you want them to look. So
Right.
I don't do backflips when it's great, and I don't sob and cry when it sucks. I just try to remain steady Eddie, because my anchor and my hope is in the fact that I get this incredible opportunity to love and serve people. And I love Jesus so much, and I love people.
That's right. One thing you said today was so good. It was like, don't marry the metrics.
Yeah,
Is that what you said?
that's what I
So talk a
said.
little bit about that. Cause I think, whenever we, and I'm going to say just for the podcast, right? When we
Mhm.
went out for the podcast, we said, you know what, we want to get 100 people within a week. And we
Mhm.
ended up making that in like the first 24 hours. And
Mhm.
so it was great. We were excited.
Mhm.
But we went out with metrics, right? And
Mhm.
we, even now, we look at the metrics, we
Mhm.
analyze different
Mhm.
things. Who's showing up, how many people are showing up, who's
Mhm.
sharing, who's liking, who's interacting with us, right?
Mhm.
What are all those things? Who's showing up online on Sunday service,
Yeah.
who's doing that? So talk a little bit about, because you actually are an analytical guy, like you are a metrics driven
Mhm.
person. So talk
Mhm.
a little bit about that, about how do I not marry the metrics, but I kind of I Just talk
Yeah.
about it.
So it's interesting. I am not anti-metrics, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
I think that you've got to have metrics. It's hard to, we know the saying is hard to manage what you cannot measure. And so
Mm-hmm.
you should have that. And then I think you should also kind of have a metric in place because a metric is a target,
Right.
right? And so you want to know exactly where you're going and have some barometer to measure effectiveness.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think and this is something that I've learned knocking at 40 years old in about 2 months, right? And having had a career for a long time, having been able to serve people for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
is what I mean by don't marry the metric. I mean, you've got to have them.
Mm-hmm.
They're important, right?
Mm-hmm.
However, you don't marry them because if you marry the metric, then the metric becomes more important than the mission.
Oh, that's
And the
so good.
mission is always more important than the metric. Metrics are going to fluctuate, right? Metrics are going to go up and they're going to go down. Some days are going to be much better than other days, or some seasons are going to be much better than other seasons. But the mission is where we've got to be anchored in. And so I think it's just a matter, well, I don't think, it's really a matter of perspective. And the perspective says is that my mission is more important than the metrics. That's the key.
So
That's
good.
the key.
That's so good.
And so I'm married to the mission and I manage the metrics. That's what we do, right? We marry the mission, but manage the metrics.
Yes.
And I think oftentimes what happens is that we put that in reverse, right? Is we marry the metrics and then we lose sight of the mission. And I've seen this in churches. I've seen this in marriages.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen this serving leaders and people literally all over the globe, is that we tend to marry the metrics, the numbers, the results, the proof, right?
Right.
And then the mission begins to suffer.
That's so true.
My premise is that you marry the mission and manage the metrics.
Yeah, I remember when we took over this church, and it's so funny because some people on here have followed like they know our story from Boston, right? And from going to the First Cathedral and speaking there, and the relationship with Archbishop Bailey and all of these things. And so people have followed our, just our road, our story. And I think one of the things when we took over this church, and did what God wanted us to do, that one of the things we said was, if everybody leaves, because we were coming in, right? This wasn't something we planted. There were pastors there and leaders there that planted this work, that did an incredible job, and God had called them to do something else within ministry. And so when we said, so we didn't know if people would stay, right? So we didn't even have a metrics at that time. We were just saying, yes. And so, but if we would have married the metrics of who was there, then it would have messed up then why we were there. So I think, for us, that as we came in with the mission to serve people.
Correct.
Like, honestly, we wanted to take Christ to culture. We wanted people to know that you are loved no matter where you are in life. And so I think that's important for me. I say this all the time, and this is like my senior advisor, like at Portia Scott Media, at Portia Scott, the person. This is John Henry Scott is my executive advisor. He's my senior advisor. He's my most trusted source. And one of the things I go back and I'm like, is this even worth it? Like, nobody, and I'm not saying nobody's listening, because I can't say that, right? Because people are, or this is not happening, that's not happening. And he always sends me back to the mission. He always sends me back to the intent. And so is it worth it, John Henry, if one person shows up for you?
Of course. Absolutely. And so the thing is that I think sometimes people say that as some type of a smoke screen to help manage and encourage themselves in times of when the metrics are down. Right. But the reality is that that's been the journey of my life. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm pretty steady. And so whether I show up the same way, whether there's 5 people, 10 people, 1 people, 5,000 people, 10,000 people, it's the exact same. So whether I have $1 million in revenue or whether we have $27 in revenue, I think that is the value of understanding the mission and marrying the mission over the metrics. Otherwise, I mean, we will literally be emotionally unstable. And when we are emotionally unstable, then that impacts the output of everything that we produce in our life. And you can take that and you can set it in any area, whether it is ministry, whether it is your career, whether it is relationships, whether it is marriage, whether it is children. As I've got to realize that there are many vicissitudes in life. There are many unexpected occurrences. And so I can't get stuck on this, but I've got to remember what's the driving force behind it. Right. So what's within the context of our marriage, within the context of our ministry that we get a chance to serve, within the context of my career, is I'm very clear on my mission in life. And my life mission fits into whatever else I do.
And so when you think about your life mission, has it just been, for me, and even as I may say it differently, but it's the same thing, right? Like for the mission for Portia Scott Media is creating a kinder world through storytelling. But my mission has always been like kindness. It has always been, when we first met, you used to call me Sister Mercy because I would just always think the best of people and always think the best of people in any situation, even sometime when the situation is done to me. I had somebody really funny say, oh my, and I just couldn't understand because that person did this, and I think that that's my mission, is that God has shown so much grace to me in my life, and that I am responsible for giving that back. How it happens is different. It shows up differently, but how do you keep going back, like in those days when it is hard, right? Because this hasn't been easy. When it's $27, right? How do you go back to the mission? What does that look like for you in those alone times, in those times where you're like, I know I said yes, I know I love people, I know I love Jesus, but listen, what does going back to the mission like mean to you? What do you do?
Yeah, I will tell you. I want to answer your question directly, and I'm not evading the question, but in essence, it's like I never leave the mission. That's the thing, is that I don't leave the mission because the mission is embedded in who I am, right? And so when I show up, I'm motivated, I'm driven, I'm there because of the mission. My mission in life is to serve humanity. To serve humanity in any way that I possibly can that is legal and righteous, right? But I'm going to go in and I'm going to serve humanity. So if I take my mission into ministry, I take my mission into my career, I take my mission into my marriage, I take my mission into my friendships, I'm a servant. And I'm keenly aware of that. And so that is my mission for being on this earth, is to serve humanity with the goodness, the kindness, the love, the decency of Jesus, right? And so I never really have to go back to the mission because I don't leave that mission. I would have to cease to being myself if I were to abandon the mission.
And for somebody, they can be saying, man, when I was 19, I didn't get the word, or I'm still trying to figure out that purpose, right? Because that's just such a, I teach on it, and I believe that I'm called to teach on it, but I teach on it from something very different than what most people do. But that's just the buzzword. And I think it keeps people stuck though. Yeah. Right. Is that honestly, I guess somebody who's saying, man, even though it's hard for you, at least you know what you're put on earth to do. Right. So I want you to put on your pastor hat. And what would you say to somebody that's like, why was I created? Like, why was I even born? Like, I hear you talking about 23 years and I can't even figure out 23 minutes of what I'm called to do.
Yeah, I would just say there's a simple pattern in Jesus, right? This is what I would say if I'm pastoring someone, is that Jesus sets this model for us. And so just try to do what Jesus did. I say it all the time. It's this shift from WWJD, from what would Jesus do, because of the ambiguity that lies there that has created so much dysfunction. But WDJD, what did Jesus do? And what I've discovered before I had clarity around my purpose and my vision and my mission and things like that in life, I just try to look at what did Jesus do?
Mhm.
And let me go do that. And I believe that there's something supernatural and something significant that happens when I look at the model of Jesus Christ and I try to love like Jesus. I try to engage with people like Jesus. I try to handle my business like Jesus. I look at what Jesus did and I set that as an example.
Mhm.
And then what the Holy Spirit does is the Holy Spirit comes in and he fine tunes that things.
Right.
He turns the light on and he translates it and says, yes, this is what you're called to do. This is where your gift mix is. This is where your dominant anointing is.
Mhm.
And so I would say that the blueprint is to do what Jesus did.
Right. I love that.
I
think at
think
its
that's what
I
happens
think at
because
its
no
simplest
one
form.
jumps in and just knowing, oh, this is my purpose. No.
Right. But it seems that way, right?
Yeah.
It looks that way, you know.
Because you see us at 23 years.
Right,
You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right.
But you didn't see all of those early years,
Mhm.
year number 5, year 6, year 10, when I was ambitious and gifted, but had an identity crisis, right? Where I wasn't in the pocket yet. People see now, but they didn't see the struggle and the crying and the cleaning the bathrooms and the carpet and singing and ushering and preaching and being the church administrator and doing it all by yourself. You didn't see that. You didn't see the church hurt, and you didn't see the loving people, and when you can blast them, but you don't blast them because you love Jesus, you love people, and you're married to the mission. So there's a myriad of things that are often unspoken and unknown to many people as they just see this piece, you know.
At 23 years, what is one thing that you would tell yourself before you got into the pocket, or even when you started? What is the one thing that you would tell that young John Henry Scott, that ambitious, that I heard the word, I'm going? What is that one thing that you
don't
would tell
take
him?
it personal is what I would say.
That's so good.
But from a different angle.
Okay.
Not from the angle of negativity, right? Sometimes people say it's negative. Don't take it personal, baby. People are just people. Don't take the applause personal.
Oh,
don't take the accolades and the applause and the pats on the back. Don't take it personal. Hold it with loose hands. Become a glory deflector. Let that thing hit you and give it right back to God. That's what I wish I knew early on. Is don't you marry that applause.
Right. And
That's
so you said this, and I use this on all of my interviews, is that paint the picture that you have literally done. I wish people knew you not the way I knew you, but I wish people knew that where you are now, I see you as a greater leader than I've ever seen you before, as a greater pastor than I've ever seen you before, oh my God, this is stupid, as a greater husband, a friend, a father. And so, when we started talking about what church would look like for us, we knew it would be out of the box. We knew we would get hits in some areas. And so, but now paint the picture that all of your dreams have come true. Like, you have been able to probably give away 70-85% of your wealth because that is what you're trying to do. You've been able to help people in so many ways, because for you, I know it's not about the amount of people that show up. It is about how much you can give. And so you have matched all that, and you know that God is pleased. What is the one thing that you are most proud of?
As it relates to ministry wise, or just over the journey?
Over the journey in general.
Yeah, I'm most proud that my wife still loves me, that my kids still think I'm a hero, that I did not lose what is absolutely essential on the journey.
Right.
That's what I'm most proud of. I'm most proud that when I'm not on the platform, when the people around the world are not talking, oh, Jean, all this stuff, but I can come home and my kids still love me. My son can still call me and he still trusts me, that my wife can still confide in me. That's what I'm most proud of.
I love that.
Yeah, it's the backstage.
Yeah.
That's what matters most to me.
Yeah. I'm going to open it up just for a quick minute. Just if you guys have any questions, he does have to jump on a plane. So I'm just going to give it like a couple minutes if you guys have any questions. But man, that was so powerful. I love it. I am honest. You guys know I am pretty, I just am. I don't know any way to be. I'm very vulnerable and I'm not vulnerable for the likes or for the shares or anything like that. But I think one of the things in ministry, I've always been vulnerable. And so whenever I do my podcast, whenever I do the live, although I may not be quoting scriptures or doing that, for me, that is still a ministry and God causes me to be vulnerable. And I think I wanted you on because I got to see I've had the opportunity to see this 23-year journey for 15 years. And so I think that sometimes I take it for granted that like, wow, it has been 15 years. But even before then, you were working in this purpose and all these things. And then when stuff doesn't work out for me in 2 weeks, I'm like, listen, I'm going crazy, So like being able to hear this is one that I'm going to listen to again for my own self to make sure that I never step away for the mission, And talking to somebody today, you heard me and I said, if you help one person, is that enough? And so, how do you navigate the tough seasons, juggling family, career, etc.? That's really good for you.
How do I?
Yeah,
I do.
They're taking questions from you.
Yes, I keep my mission up front. That's the thing. Right. Is I'm always reminded of the mission, and then I prioritize what's important. I think it's critical that we have a landscape of everything, but then we prioritize what's important. And I believe that prioritization should be based upon your own personal values.
Right.
And I think you've got to be honest with those values, right? Are those values reflective of the mission? Are those values going to glorify God? Are those values going to make those people around you better? Mm-hmm. So that's why if I look at everything that I've got, basically planted a church, mm-hmm. right? Because we took over a church after 1 year, but there was still a lot of infrastructure and things that had to be done while running around the world, right? Not the city or the country, but literally around the world while being a husband and being a father and trying to stay healthy emotionally, physically. I think it's absolutely critical and necessary that we keep the mission in front of us, and then we have the right things prioritized. Right. For me, my relationship with Jesus is the most important thing in my life. And then making sure that this is right and my family is right. Everything else I can put in order. Mm-hmm. But when that's off, then nothing else works. So I think that's how I try to balance those things out, keep the mission in front of me, and always have this prioritization in place. And then having a wife, right, that will, kind of keep me honest when I'm drifting or when I feel off balance. Then the fact that, you're classy and you got a smart mouth who will speak up and kind of let me know, hey, babe, I need you to slow down. I need you to take care of yourself. Mm-hmm. So
I love that. Thank you for that question, Rosetta. I think sometime too, definitely as women, and you and I, we stopped saying the word balance, and we started saying alignment. And so what does that align with, right? Because I don't think you ever have what we consider balance, like everything, right? Because you may be traveling around the world, but we're out of balance where you cannot spend that time with me. That's right. But Correct. But it's in alignment because you're still talking to me. You're Correct. Still giving me what I need to ensure that our relationship is Correct. Strong, that our children are healthy, that Correct. I'm healthy, and things like that. Yeah. So we try to base everything on alignment and going back to what is important.
The idea is that balance is situational and alignment is structural. Right. And so if I'm trying to balance things, I'm living like this. Mm-hmm. And when I'm going in and I'm alignment, it means that I look at the system of my life and how everything works and I put it in its proper place. Mm-hmm. And that means that it's aligned. So I can technically do all of these things with the appropriate amount of energy and effort as opposed to trying to if I do this, then this
with the
suffers.
Same amount of energy.
So it's the infrastructure that I put in place that really allows me to be effective.
I love that. Thank you for that. FYI, I'm going to use this on our wake up reminders. Now, we have like a little short thing. Daryl doesn't know, so I won't tell him just yet. So you guys, one of the things that I do want to say is that soon, and I'm saying this because if I don't say it, he won't do it, but he is going to be coming out with his own podcast, Go Together. And I'll let you kind of talk about what your idea of it is, because everything's not solidified, but we are doing a podcast called Go Together. They're going to be conversations with people around the world and talking about what are some everything, culture,
right?
Food,
culture, politics,
religion,
food, science, faith, our stories. That's the idea. And it's really born out of this African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, then you go together. And I actually think that sustainability and being able to scale our stories, our experiences, that there's something magical in there that just adds value to the human experience.
Right. As we go together.
As we go together.
That's so good. So you guys, I'm super excited. My daughter wants to know, should the dad take the daughter's side or the wife's side in a disagreement?
The wife's side.
The wife's side.
Yeah, that's an easy one.
Balance is situational and alignment is structural. Love, love, love. That was so good. Thank you. Alignment. I need to get me some of that. That's good. You guys, thank you so much for joining. I'm going to let this guy go because he has to catch a flight and I don't want him to be late, although I don't want him to go. Yes, you want to acknowledge me?
I do want to acknowledge you. I want to thank you for letting me be on your show. I appreciate it. Thank you, my darling, my love.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much for showing up. Look at y'all. Y'all are on YouTube. Y'all are showing up. You guys, I'm super excited. One of the things that I did want to say is that, we're in season 5 of the podcast. If you do not listen to the Wake Up and Show Up podcast, you are missing it. We have great stories, and it really is a podcast where we weave together stories and interviews that show life's pivotal moments and the decisions made to show up. And so that looks different for all of us, but we are connected by our stories, and our stories give us the opportunity to do. They're like windows of opportunity that we can do it. So we are doing some pivoting in season 6, and we are looking at social entrepreneurs, founders, leaders, employees, and volunteers in companies that are impacting humanity directly. So that's why we say social entrepreneurs or social organizations, meaning that their mission is, yes, they're bringing in revenue, but they want to impact humanity, whether that's environment, whether that's equality, whatever it is. So if you guys know any of those people, if you guys volunteer for Habitat for Humanity, if you volunteer with an organization, if you know a founder, if you know somebody that is directly impacting humanity, I want to interview them. So let me know. You guys can go to our website. It is portiascott.com. Go to contact us and fill out that information, and we will contact you. We will contact that person, but we are looking for people to interview. We believe that people need to get their stories out, and especially those stories that are directly impacting humanity, where they are more about the mission than necessarily the metric.
Love it.
All right, guys, we love you so, so very much. I will see you guys on Wake Up and Show Up Live next Monday. But before then, we will be on Wake Up Well, which is your weekly COVID-19 update. We took a break yesterday, but we will be back next Sunday at 7 p.m. So we end every single show with this declaration.
Waking up is automatic. Showing up is intentional.
Today I will show up. See you later.